Welcome, everyone. We are here for the STS Congenital Heart Surgery Database User Group call. It is Friday, July 31st. So, first of all, happy Friday, everyone. We made it another week. I hope you all have had a good week, and I hope you all have a good weekend. So, I hope everyone makes it a great day today. All right, for our agenda, we will cover the welcome and introductions. We'll go over our housekeeping, our STS updates. We'll turn things over to IQVIA, and then we'll end up with our Q&A. On the call today, we have from the STS, we have myself, Leanne Jones, database manager for thoracic and congenital databases. We have Carol Crone, the senior clinical manager for the STS national databases. We also have, let's see, who do we have here from STS? We also have Addie Dolan on the line, STS National Database Coordinator. We have from IQVIA, we have Joe Brower, Jeanette, Hannah. We have Jean and Michelle. We have and other IQVIA team members may be joining us as well. Melanie is off this week, so she will not be joining us on today's call, but Joe and Jeanette are going to be kind enough to take over for Melanie for today's presentation. Alrighty, so for our housekeeping items, just a reminder, again, not much change from last week's slides. The July training manual, again, has been posted. The August updates will be coming next week. The training manual, again, is posted the first week of every month, just a friendly reminder. Also, in case you weren't with us last week, Appendix C updates have been posted again, and they are out on the STS website under the data collection resources for version 341, and I can show you all where those are located if necessary later on in the presentation. Also, in regards to the harvest and AQO updates, just know STS is continuing to work with our task force and leadership to determine the harvest close dates for congenital. Again, as we have stated previously, participants will get at least 4 weeks notice prior to the close of the harvest. So more information about that harvest close date is going to be coming very soon. We are getting close to determining the harvest close information. So more information about that will be coming very soon. In regards to AQO, Emily has been on our previous calls and has provided us with all of our AQO updates. We just wanted to touch base and let you guys know we have heard from several participants about concerns for pricing and a lot of due to the current situation, a lot of your institutions are not paying for paying for meetings, conferences, AQO, for example. So we have heard from you and we have brought those concerns back to STS leadership, and they are taking that into consideration. And please know that there will be, STS will be releasing some information soon regarding maybe some adjustments to pricing and things like that. So STS has heard your comments and your concerns about AQO. So more information will be coming soon to the participants regarding AQO. So please stay tuned. All right. Next, again, these were the slides that I presented last week regarding the STS updates to Appendix C. Appendix C does include the updated stat scores for these 9 procedures that were added in version 341. And again, the initial notification was sent out to data managers on 6/30. After these stat scores were provided, many data managers reached out and asking about the additional procedures, 3330, 3340, and 3410 through 3440, those additional TOF and DORB procedures. We have since added the stat scores for these additional procedures, and these were added to the Appendix C. And again, that updated appendix has been posted to the STS website. And again, I did cover this last week as well, but for those of you that maybe were not able to join us last week, these harvest codes 3330 and 3440 are considered children of procedure 370, that's highlighted there in red. And similarly, 3410, 3420, 3430, and 3440 are considered children of procedure 1180. And the idea behind not making the risk scores for the TOF and DORB codes is that STS will address the risk scores after we've accumulated enough data as these codes are being used. And the group agreed that there was not a high likelihood that these child codes would involve appreciably, a different risk from those parents 370 and 1180. So you'll see that 3330 and 3440 share the same stat score and mortality category as that parent 370, and then the same for the DORB. All right, next I'm going to turn things over to Joe for our IQVIA update. Joe?
Thank you very much. And good afternoon. Yeah, it is afternoon here on the East Coast. Good afternoon, everybody. So let's start out by talking about some things that are going into our August update, which is actually tomorrow. It's August 1st. So starting with updates to the uploader and DQR. First, we have STS 3249. This is an issue where decimal values submitted for the tranexamic acid infusion rate data element are not being accepted when they should be allowed for version 3.41, and that will be corrected in this weekend's update. Next one is STS 3371. Some users have been getting an error for text-based data elements saying that they were exceeding the 100-character limit, even though their text in their DAT file was certainly not over 100 characters. So we figured out what was causing that in the back end, and that should be corrected in this weekend's release as well. And finally, the STS 3528, the vendor ID field limit increased to accept 25 characters. So there were vendors where their ID was longer than the previous 8-character limit. And we just corrected that to allow it to go up to 25. And so that should resolve any issues where people were getting errors regarding vendor ID that were preventing records from getting through. And so for any of these, if you were experiencing these bugs, you can go ahead and start resubmitting those files after this weekend's release, and those critical errors should no longer prevent your records from getting into the system. All right, next is the missing variable report items. So we have STS 3251. This is regarding the missing variable report showing that the surgeon NPI was missing. So this, we had corrected several instances of this in a previous update, but we did identify additional scenarios where this was still being flagged incorrectly. And so we did apply some additional updates that should catch all the remaining instances where this is coming up when it should not be. STS 3200, the missing variable report showing missing results for the ICUP unique ID. So that it was another, the ICU pharmacology table unique record identifier element was showing as missing for cases where it was not applicable. And so the update this weekend will resolve that as well. Then the next two, the MVR displaying results for the ProCoag factor 7 dose 3 and the ProCoag Desmo 3. Those two will also be fixed. So that was the issue where those medications, there was a third dose entry that wasn't applicable because a third dose was not given. And so those instances will not appear on your MVR any longer following this weekend. All right, next slide.
So this is Jeanette. Just a note that for anybody that, as Joe mentioned, you have been encountering these critical errors, we do encourage you to submit your records after this weekend, and you should not experience those critical errors anymore. But for everybody who has been submitting and has not been experiencing critical errors, you would not need to resubmit any of your existing submission files because of any of these issues.
All right, thank you, Jeanette, for clarifying. All right, so the next slide here has to do with updates that are targeted for September. So a little bit further out, STS 3166. This one is pretty much what it says. The anesthesia adverse event element is showing, is giving an error when the anesthesiologist present is set to no. That should not be coming up as an error if there was no anesthesia. And so that error is expected to be resolved not this weekend, but in the coming release in September. We don't have a specific date targeted for that yet, but that information will be forthcoming once we get a little bit closer. STS 3356, the MVR is incorrectly flagging status at 365 days after surgery as missing. So they are adding some additional logic that should update the MVR so that it doesn't count when it doesn't apply, and it also will do the opposite. It's going to help to ensure that any situation where it is not being counted and it should be will be captured. So that will correct that update or that report. STS 3225, CHSD missing variable report displaying autologous transfusion. And so this is just another situation where the system is flagging this data element as missing when it is present on the form. And so that should be resolved in September as well. And then STS 3389, the MVR, I think we actually discussed some of these on the last webinar under the under review section, but this one is it's showing the chromosomal abnormality other specify field as missing, even when there was something submitted for the genes with identified abnormality. And so it shouldn't flag that because the genes with identified abnormality should satisfy the other specify piece for the chromosomal abnormality. And so that should be updated for any version 3.41 records coming in September. All right. Next, we have issues currently under review. So these are things we are currently looking into. So these are recently reported issues. Starting with STS 3499, the value of primary diagnosis indicator is not accepted by the uploader. So this is something that is not affecting all sites, as it says there in parentheses. For this, the uploader is triggering critical errors stating that the primary diagnosis indicator is required, and when we review the DAT file, the primary diagnosis indicator is present. So we're looking into what is causing that particular error. STS 3501, the dashboard update logic to exclude cases and the missing percent calculation if the patient is still in the hospital. So we received a request to update the MVR so that it does not count operative mortality as missing if the patient is still in the hospital. We're looking to see if that's something that we are able to get added to the report. And so that is something that we are looking at right now. And then STS 3527. This is an individual user report, as it says there's not impacting all sites, but we did get a report from someone indicating that the uploader reflected an incorrect number of records that were sorry, I lost my train of thought. Incorrect number of records processed following a file submission. So they uploaded their file and it seemed that there were some records that didn't make it in. And so we're looking into that just to make sure that the values reported on your uploader history is accurate and to make any additional fixes that are required to make sure that the DQR is showing your results accurately. All right. Next, we have some enhancements coming this weekend as well. So the missing variable report, we're going to update it to the mortality filter to include some additional data variables. So that is going to add admit date and op type. So that will be available to you after this weekend. Please note the variables listed in the bullet points below there. Those are required at the time of saving a record to the database, and so they will not appear on the missing variable report. And those are primary diagnosis, primary procedure, and date of surgery. The other enhancement is that we're updating the missing variable report to allow users to filter cases by your index operations. So after this weekend, you'll be able to use that additional filter as well. And for the next slide, I'm going to turn things over to Jeanette.
everyone, this, as Joe mentioned, is Jeanette from IQVIA. So in addition, we are working on some future report updates. We're still finalizing the timelines for availability on these changes, but that will include a case eligibility for inclusion and mortality analysis report option, as well as a report showing the primary procedure determination or assignment. These two, the eligibility for inclusion and mortality analysis and primary procedure determination, are at this point expected to be 2 tabs of one new upcoming report. And these would be available on the non-risk adjusted data, so would reflect the latest information from your submissions right away within these reports. In addition, of course, we are also working on the risk adjusted dashboard for the CHSD data. And that work will only be completed after the harvest is closed, which I know Leanne mentioned earlier. There is no firm date for that at this time. And then the DCRI group has the opportunity to do the risk adjustment and return the risk, the data for inclusion in the risk adjusted dashboard. Back to you, Joe, for the next slide.
Great, thank you. So this last slide here is just to cover a few common questions that we get. It's just some information and advice to help you with some of these more common issues that come up. The first one here, there are items missing from the current dashboard. When will those items be added? And so you will note that not all the data elements available for data entry currently will appear on your dashboard report. And so we are working with the STS to continue to review the priority and release timing for enhancements for the existing reports. And as we make updates, we'll continue to update you all as to what we're putting into the system and what data elements are being added to that report. And so just if you don't see something, let us know that you'd like to see it, and we can take that back and use that to kind of drive which data elements get prioritized. The second piece there, the missing variable report is displaying a field as missing, but I verified it was entered in my software application. Why is it missing? And so this often happens where, yes, it is visible and available in your software, your vendor software, but then when you submit it to our system, the data doesn't come over. And what we're often finding is that the DAT file itself does not contain that value. So even though it might be in your vendor system, when you pull that DAT file, for whatever reason, it's not coming in. And so in that situation, the missing variable report is technically correct because we only see what you send us in the DAT file. And so if it's not in the DAT file, then we don't have it. And so the missing variable report is going to reflect that accurately when it sees that information was not in your file. And so in those situations, we just ask that you're welcome to contact us first to get verification. We can look into your DAT files and see what's going on there. But we would ask you then to follow up with your vendor if you need further assistance, because if their system is for whatever reason not pulling that information into the DAT file, they would need to look into why that is and make any necessary fixes on their side. All right. That does it for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe. I left this slide here as a placeholder. If you were able to join us last week, IQVIA did go through a good demo last week and a walkthrough of all of the reports. And I know Jeanette and Joe, or Jeanette has the system up in case, when time comes for questions, if we need to pull up the platform, Jeanette can, do a screen share and we can walk through some of your questions on the screen and explanations if need be. So, excuse me, next we have the STS IQVIA support plan, which you are all familiar with. We've all seen this slide before. Again, just to run through real quick, Tier 1, you would reach out to tech support via phone or email. Initially, you will be connected with Tier 1. If Tier 1 is unable to answer your questions, you are routed to either Tier 2 IQVIA support or STS accordingly based upon your question. Tier 2 live support is available 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. Also, please note that it could take up to 2 business days to receive a response in regards to your questions. Just a friendly reminder, a lot of these issues sometimes do not have simple answers, so it does take a little while to dig into each of these questions. And there are, can be a high volume of questions coming in. So I just, encourage you to, be a little patient with us and our IQVIA team members. We're all still learning the STS congenital data and the database. And, just keep in mind, when we first started with DCRI as the data warehouse, we all had a learning curve there as well. You all were very patient with me as I learned the data and learned how to resolve the issues and dig through. So we appreciate your patience, and so just understand, that we're all learning and through this transition. So just to be patient with us, and we are all working together to get your questions answered and resolved and to get back to you as quickly as possible. Also, just to know that if Tier 2 does need to reach out, if it's a vendor-related issue in some instances, Tier 2 may have to reach out to a database vendor. They would do that in those certain circumstances. And also, if your questions are related to analysis, STS would work with DCRI on any specific questions and get back to you accordingly. Carol, did you have anything you wanted to add in regards to support plan or IQVIA?
No,
Any
I
other
think
team members?
you covered it well.
Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. Next, we'll move on. Here we have our list of resources. Again, we have our STS National Database webpage. We have our IQVIA tech support email and phone number. We also have our National Database feedback form, which we encourage you to use to provide us with any feedback, good or bad. Please do know we do welcome your feedback. We want to make this database and this platform useful for you, enhancements. So please, let us know what you need, what you like, what we're missing, what you'd like to see. So again, please be sure to give us that feedback so we can make sure we're making the user experience, valuable for you. Our resource documents found out on the STS National Database webpage. We've got our contact information, all of our webinar information, FAQs, checklists, our support document, as well as training videos and our link to IQVIA for submitting data. Here's my contact information. Please feel free to reach out to me directly via email or phone. I'm here to answer any of your questions that you may have. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me. That's what I'm here for. If you have any database operational questions, please feel free to reach out to stsdb@sts.org. And in terms of database operational questions, we're referring to you have questions with your contract, your participant contact updates, if you have questions about invoices or anything like that, if you could just reach out to us via stsdb@sts.org. All right. Our next congenital webinars are scheduled for, our next user group call is scheduled for August the 14th at 11 Central, and then our next monthly webinar is scheduled for August 21st at 12. And we do have a couple of polling questions. I realize Friday calls are difficult for a lot of us, and especially during the summertime, a lot of people take off on Fridays, and then Friday calls in general can tend to be challenging for many of us. So we are proposing to move the user group calls to Thursdays and have them twice a month. So which time do you prefer? We have 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 Pacific. And then we also have a little later in the afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 Central, 2 Mountain, and 1 Pacific. So I'll just give everyone a few minutes here to vote. I see we still have some responses coming in. So, and this will just help us plan accordingly for our next webinars. So we make sure that we hold them at appropriate times that are convenient for most of you. See, here looks like about, let me share this. About 70% of you prefer the 1 p.m. Eastern time, so that's great. Carol and I will take that back, and we'll look into those times for our scheduling our next webinars. Do we have another polling question, Carol? I think that was the only one. think that was the only one.
Yeah, I think that was the
Yeah.
only one. So
Yep.
I'm just wondering, the call on August 14th. So
Mhm.
right now for next week, there are no congenital calls scheduled. For the following week, we have the call scheduled on the 14th, which is a Friday, but we can certainly move that to the 13th and host that at then 1 o'clock, 12 noon, which I think we'll do. So we'll update the slides.
Okay.
Okay. Good
Okay.
deal.
All right. Yep. Yep. And obviously if there's, when we do change it, we would send out a notification. Marketing would definitely, we would have that information shared with the participants as well. And also just a reminder, STS will begin hosting quarterly new data manager webinars for the congenital database. And these sessions will be beneficial for our new data managers, or maybe perhaps some of our data managers that are still fairly new within their role, maybe, just a couple of years. It'll also be good for some seasoned if you need a refresher. We'll be discussing how to access resources, how to use your software and data specs. We'll go over the training manual, how to submit clinical questions, understanding the DCF, as well as numerous other topics. And again, dates for those new data manager webinars will be coming soon. We'll be working on those starting probably next week. So our dates will be coming soon for August. It's hard to believe that August actually starts tomorrow. I don't know where the time's gone. All right, so with that, we'll just turn things over to open discussion. We'll obviously, you all are familiar, use the Q&A function to submit your questions. We'll get through as many questions as we can, and we encourage your feedback. So if everyone is ready, I think we will go ahead and start with the questions. All right, so our first question here, do we need to resubmit all data after the August 1 update?
This is Jeanette from IQVIA. I know this question came in while we were discussing the known issues, and I did mention this there, that you would not need to resubmit all data, but I thought it worth reiterating for the group again here. So no, you would not need to resubmit all data after the August 1 update. If you were encountering the errors, which were not impacting all sites or all users, then we would encourage you to submit the records that did encounter those errors, or the time periods that contain records that encountered those errors, and those should be resolved for you, but you would not need to resubmit all data.
Great, thank you, Jeanette. Our next question, IQVIA related as well. Can IQVIA post a notification when the uploader, within the uploader stating when the update has been completed? I intend to work this weekend.
This is Jeanette again. This is a great question, Heidi. So we are going to be posting a notification in the system a little bit later today with the expected window for the downtime. And then after that window is completed, you should be able to log in and all of the updates will be in place. So we will also be posting a notification describing all of the updates, but that may not be like instantaneously when the release is completed or the updates are completed. So just keep an eye out for that notification later today with the details on the outage window. And then coming into the system, the changes should be in place.
Okay, great, thank you. Our next question, has the index operation crossover issue been fixed or resolved?
This is Jeanette. I'm not quite sure which issue this is referring to. Leanne, could you go back to the slides for the known issues? I don't think we had one.
Okay, hold on, let me go back to the known issues. And then I'm not sure who, I can't see who actually submitted the question.
If you have a ticket number related to this issue, if you could share that out, that would give us a better opportunity to double check on this particular item for you.
All right. And our next question, is there a plan to create, Becky wanted to know if we were going to have a primary procedure determination report. So yes, Becky, for our future reports, Jeanette had discussed here are our future reports. We will have, I know these were two very important tables that you all used in the data quality report from DCRI. We have the case eligibility for inclusion and mortality analysis, as well as the primary procedure determination assignment. Those reports are being created at IQVIA and will be coming very soon, and they will be available to participants prior to the close of the harvest. So you will have that primary procedure determination assignment table. It was a table at DCRI, but it's being report format here within the IQVIA platform, and again, the case eligibility for inclusion and mortality analysis. So those will be coming very soon. Our next question, when will we be able to save comments in the case form?
This is Jeanette. I can take this one. So some users have noticed that there is an option when viewing the case forms itself to add comments. However, you don't have a save button in that interface. So as is mentioned here, you can't save. That is because we are working with STS for the future potential of the direct data entry option to be opened up for CHSD. That's not currently available, and users of the direct data entry option would have access to enter and save comments. However, for everybody that is working with another vendor system, you would not be editing or updating cases directly within the IQVIA platform. You would be using your vendor solution to do those changes. So we would not be storing comments on the STS database for vendor submission files. So that will depend on whether in future you choose to utilize the direct data entry option.
Great, thank you, Jeanette. Our next question, can you repeat the timelines for the case eligibility and prime reports? There was a little static. And these reports are in progress. They will be available to participants prior to the close of the harvest, which has not been determined yet. We're getting close to determining the close date. Once we have that established, we will inform participants, but I know IQVIA is working on these reports and they will be available to participants prior to the close of the harvest. I don't know, if Jeanette, if you had anything to add to that.
No, completely agree with your update, Leanne. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Our next question, will the issue STS 3131, index operation incorrect assignment on patients when crossing over years, will be resolved with this weekend update?
Yes, thank you for sharing that ticket number. That will be resolved with this weekend's update. And since you have called that out, I will make sure that that is also listed in the release notes for this release.
Yep, we'll get that added to the slide so when it's posted out on the website. So thank you. Thank you, Mari. All right, and I'm making a note of that, STS 3131. Thank you. All right. Our next question, there are still cases where the data is in the DAT file but not in the MVR. Ticket was submitted a couple weeks ago. And I know McCall, STS, and IQVIA are reviewing that, and we are working on that and in discussions. IQVIA will get those issues corrected. Unlike when things were at DCR, we have two different platforms. Things work a lot differently at IQVIA than the way they did at DCRI. So when we find these issues and these things need to be added within the IQVIA platform, it can't be quite as immediate as it was within DCRI. So it does take, there are targets and rollouts when IQVIA can get these things added and get them rolled out. So I do know they are working on that, but it does take a little while to get, once these enhancements and corrections are done, they have to be rolled out during a release date. They can't go in immediately. So they are being worked on. So thank you, McCall. I don't know if Jeanette, if anyone had anything else to add.
No, that was great. Thank you, Leanne.
Okay, perfect. Our next question, for the updated stat scores, will DCRI automatically assign that operation as the primary procedure, or do we need to go back and assign that procedure as the primary procedure? It was initially was changed due to the stat 0 status. Thank you. So Carrie, DCRI is adding these new stat scores into the primary procedure determination analysis. So, and they will be used in the next analysis for this current harvest. So DCRI will assign these stat scores, will determine the primary procedure. If you want to go back and change your data, that is up to you. I know a lot of participants do like to go back, but that is up to you. It's not mandatory, but again, I know that is what a lot of the data managers do. But these new stat scores will be incorporated in this current analysis that we're for the current harvest. Our next question, when will you add the notice to use combination code instead of the two separate codes? So again, McCall, that is in discussion. We need to work with IQVIA to get that added as an enhancement. I know we were trying to need to prioritize our enhancements, and I felt, our STS, we all felt that the primary procedure determination as well as the case eligibility for inclusion and mortality analysis were the top two requested reports at this time. So we are working and we'll be in discussion to add that combination code instead of the two separate codes information into the STS reporting, the IQVIA reporting, excuse me. And again, for others, this is a table that was also included in the DCRI data quality report that they used to clean, that the participants used to clean up that data. So this would be something that we are discussing to add to the IQVIA platform reports. And Sarah, you're welcome for the clarification. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Leanne. I just got word that the EDDI calls are the second Thursday of the month at the same time we just proposed. So I looked on the calendar.
Okay.
It looks like we're good for Tuesdays because we we don't want to overlap with the monthly call, but we still want to offer two group calls. So I was just wondering, is it okay if we poll the group to make sure that Tuesdays would be okay? This would be at 1 o'clock Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 Mountain Time, and 10 Pacific Time. So I put this real quick here. We don't want to overlap with anybody else's calls because we know that networking is pretty important for you all. So just want to make sure it would be okay to move this to Tuesday at 12 noon Central. And again, these calls will be recorded, and if you need any, any further help with anything, Leanne and myself and all of the IQVIA support team is available to help you if you're not able to make these calls.
Absolutely. I agree. Thank you for letting us know. So I appreciate that. We didn't even realize that when we were coming up with those times. So thank you very much. All right. It looks like about 82% are good with the Tuesday time, Carol. So
yeah, and we'll still have we can do the user calls on Tuesday, and then maybe we could still keep the monthly webinar when it's normally scheduled now, or we'll talk about it. But updated dates will be coming out. We know that our calls are helpful and are useful during this time. So, but we also know that your networking is important too. So we don't want to step on that.
Right.
Thanks, Leanne.
Thank you. Oh no, thank you. All right. We still have about 20 minutes left. I don't have any other questions. I'll hold if anyone wanted to bring up anything that we may have missed, or if there was something that we needed to show on the dashboard, or I don't know. If anyone has any questions, take this opportunity to ask your questions with IQVIA on the line. We're here to answer your questions, so also want to be respectful of your time. I'll wait just a couple of minutes here. I don't know, Carol, if anyone had anything. While I'm here, I can navigate out to the STS website. So let me pull this over. For anyone, oopsie, sorry about that. Let's see here, that didn't work out very well. So So for those that, if you may not be familiar, but I'm sure most of you are, but for anyone that may be brand new, for the congenital heart surgery database for the Appendix C that was posted, if you go out to the STS National Database page and you click on congenital heart surgery, if you go down to version 341, here you'll find your training manual, again, your data collection forms, and the updated Appendix C is posted here under additional resources. So you can find that document here. If anyone is needing AQO information, you can also go to the STS National Database and you can find that information. If you scroll down here and click on Advances in Quality and Outcomes, this will bring you to the AQO information page, and here you'll see all of our AQO information. You can click on the link for Friday, October 2nd for the for congenital, and you can see a few of the objectives here, preview a meeting schedule, your registration, submit an abstract here, and then information about continuing education credits, and then pricing information. And again, more information. Another update about AQO will be coming soon from STS, as we've heard many of you stating that your institutions will not be sending you or paying for your registration fees. So let's see, we have one question. Is there any idea when the final submission date will be? My surgeons are getting anxious to have the report as changes are made based on this report. So we are working on the harvest close deadline. We do not have a concrete date yet. Please know that we will be sharing that information with you very soon. We're getting close to determining that harvest close date, and that information will be shared with you very soon. So once we have that harvest close date, we'll be able to give you more information on when the reports will be available. So once we have that harvest close date, we'll be able to get the timeline established, and we'll be able to give you more information, Autumn. So again, I know that's not a concrete answer, but you know, we are working on that, and information is coming very soon. We're getting very close to getting that date solidified. So
and this
thank you for your patience while we work through that. This
is Donna. It will definitely be after the release of those additional reports that are coming on September 12th.
Thank you, Donna. So for AQO, here's an AQO question. Will there be a general session on a separate day? Oh, and Emily's not on. I'm sorry. I was just assuming Emily was on.
Donna. No, there won't be, but there will be general sessions available to all participants.
Right. All right. Let's see here. Our next question. Is the 4-year window date range going to change? In other words, depending on the date of the harvest, will we be submitting the first half of 2020? So, Donna, do you want to?
Go ahead. Yes. Yeah. Instead of having 2 harvests this year, there'll just be 1, and it will go through June 30th. So the analytic window is for the composite rating is a 4-year window.
Right.
So that the 4-year window will end on June 30th.
Right. So we'll go July 1, 2016 through June 30th of 2020 will be the reporting window. All right, and I'm going to wait and see if there's some more questions that come in regarding that. Again, if you have any more questions, please feel free. We've got about 10 more minutes, so definitely want to give you guys the opportunity to ask your questions. Our next question. So there will be no report that includes the first 6 months of 2016. No. This report period will cover July 1, 2016 through June 30th of 2020.
The previous reports included the first 6 months of 16.
Correct. So, so we missed spring 2020. We're combining the spring and fall 2020 harvest. So the reporting period will follow the fall 2020 reporting period, which would be 7/1/2016 through June 30th of 2020. Right, Carrie, the spring report would have followed, the spring report follows, it would have been January 1, 2016 through 12/31/2019. Since we're combining the two harvests, we will have the one fall harvest. The reporting period will follow that fall harvest reporting, standard reporting period time. Is the new reporting time frame on the website? No, we have not put that information on the website yet, but we will get that updated. And I think we can expect to have that updated on Monday for the reporting period. We need to get that harvest close date established. I think we'd like to determine all of that at the same time and post all of that at the same time. Have the harvest close date, the reporting period, and when the final report is expected out. And our next question, does this mean the public reporting will be updated with mid-year reporting and not the standard 4-year data? There is no public reporting for this year for 2020. We will resume public reporting in 2021. So our next public reporting results would be based off of the spring 2021 harvest. So we need to submit Q1 and 2 2020. I feel like this is the first time I have heard that. So we just had a call with the task force, and the task force has, decided that, it's just logistically, it's not feasible to do. I mean, we're in July now. It's not feasible to do 2 harvests. I know this isn't ideal, but, with the transition, we're doing the best that we can, and this is the way that we're gonna have to handle things for this very first time. When we get to 2021, things will be back to our standard spring harvest, fall harvest for 2021. Again, we know it's not ideal, but we're doing the best that we can. But this is how the STS leadership has decided that how we're going to handle this congenital harvest period this year. I do know for adult cardiac, we combined, STS did combine Harvest 2 and Harvest 3 for adult cardiac. So that's how we're working things out this time. Donna, if you want to expand on that or have anything to add.
Yeah, we've heard from a lot of sites that folks have been either furloughed or reassigned to other duties, weren't able to enter their data into their software. So even though we didn't open the platform, people weren't even able to enter it into their software. And we just want to give everyone time to get their cases entered, be back to work, get used to the platform, and have all the reports available that you need to make sure you're comfortable with your submission. So those reports are coming September 12th, and the harvest will give you several weeks to clean up your data, use those reports, get used to the reports. We'll have some webinars to explain how to use those so that it's a successful harvest for everyone. And as Leanne said, this year has just been unusual and challenging, and we want to make it easier for you and not try and cram in 2 harvests in 1 year on a new platform for people whose work and home life has already been disrupted.
Right. And a lot of the questions that are coming in says, can you please put out an official notice that the surgeons will see regarding these important decisions, public reporting, et cetera? I do know there's already been an announcement that was sent out regarding public reporting, that there would be no public reporting for 2020. I believe that was sent out a while ago. Correct me if I'm wrong, Donna, but yes, we do intend to send out an official notice that, how we're moving forward with this current harvest. Again, we just had the task force call where these decisions were made. So, and we're letting you all know here on our user group call, and there will be an official notification that does go out to everyone, indicating that we'll be combining the spring and fall harvest, what the reporting period will be like. So yes, we understand that, and we will be sharing that with everyone. So please know that it's not just announced only on these calls, but there will be a formal announcement coming out to all the users and surgeon leaders.
And just to clarify, or just to reiterate what Leanne said, this is Carol. We did send out information regarding public reporting a couple months ago that we were not refreshing in 2020, and the refresh would happen in 2021. And I think you also presented it, we presented it on the congenital webinar for the month. Whenever that month was, I think it was probably February or March that decision was made.
Right. And Autumn, someone was just asking us, so the next harvest, the next reporting period will be July 1, 2016 through 6/30/2020. It'll still follow our 4-year congenital harvest. It always follows a 4-year reporting period. So we'll be following our standard fall 4-year reporting period window for the current harvest.
And
Okay.
this is Donna, just to remind you that your results will be on a dashboard, so it's not like the paper report you're used to. So if you want to zero in on a certain time frame, you can do that. So it's not like you're losing the first 6 or the last 6 months.
Right. I'm sorry, and there just seems to be a lot of confusion as to when that public reporting announcement was sent out to participants, but it was sent, I think, actually back in November of 2019. It was sent by STS leadership. They announced that the whole public reporting. Correct?
Yeah, that's what it looks
Let's
like.
see here.
What Becky has said.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Becky. And I think others in the group can see. And the surgeons did receive that email as well. So there has been, Chastity had indicated that the surgeons did receive that email about public reporting. So this should not be news. Public reporting delay or, cease until January 2021 should not be new news to your surgeons. They were informed by STS leadership. Let's see here. Let's see, the email was sent in June 2020. So thank you, Becky, for clarifying that. Thank you. And Carrie, there was not a webinar specifically about public reporting notification. There wasn't a specific webinar on that, but as we had just indicated, there was an official email announcement that went out to STS surgeons and STS community back in June regarding the public reporting.
Hey, Leanne.
Let's see here. Yes, ma'am.
You may want to pull up the public reporting website just to show folks where that information is in case they want to show
Absolutely.
administration.
Absolutely. All righty. Oh, they've changed the buttons around on me. It's me every time.
It's okay. It's up at the top.
Oh, thank you. Where is it?
Right there under public reporting. STS National Database.
Oh, yeah. You mean the big STS public reporting
Yeah.
words on the left, the bar on the left-hand side? So good. Here's the STS public reporting website. So you'll go to the STS homepage and click on registries, and then click on the STS public reporting link in the left-hand side. And again, here is the public reporting information that was posted. This was originally posted on 5/29/2020. And then here is a link to the announcement in November 2019 by STS leadership, so you can pull that up and share with your surgeons if needed. And then here, if you click the link, that'll take you to the STS public reporting main page.
And when we,
Thank you, Carol.
you're welcome. And when we updated this on the public reporting website, we also sent out official notification to the surgeons and to the data manager community via email.
Right.
And we're working with our web designers, so it will be new and improved and easier to understand for patients and families.
Right. Okay, so for our, so just to clarify again, we're getting a lot of questions about the reporting period. So for this, this current harvest that we're having right now, that's, I know it's typically divided into spring harvest, and then we'd have a close date, and then you'd start submitting fall harvest. We are combining this entire harvesting period. So spring and fall is combined into one. Because ideally the spring harvest would have been closed by now on our normal schedule. The spring harvest would have been done, it would have been closed, and we would have been moved into the fall harvest. So due to the transition, we're having to combine them both. So ideally now you should be submitting data from up through June 30th of 2020. That's what the fall harvest report will cover, is that up through June 30th of 2020. Let's see. All right. Well, we received 2 separate STS national reports this year, one spring and one fall. There will be one report. I don't know if Donna, if you want, well, dashboard, because we're not doing, you know, we won't have those PDF reports like we had in the past. Everything will now be on the dashboard, so we won't have separate reports per se like that, but you'll be able to filter, you know, within the dashboard, you'll be able to filter on certain date ranges. So if you want to see some data for, you know, for a certain time frame, you can filter it on time frames. That's the beauty of the dashboard. I don't know if anyone wants to elaborate on any of that. We've got about a minute left on time.
I think you covered it, Leanne. The PDFs are being transformed into dashboard reporting, and we'll give the first dashboard report that will come out will be the fall harvest for 2020 fall harvest, which will be data through June 30th of 2020. And we will provide a whole bunch of education on how to use that dashboard for reporting. One question that I did see in here, so they just want to clarify, where did it go? The data from the website, the public reporting data that's on that website, will it be left up right now, or is it going to be removed? Are we going to remove what's currently up there since there's not going to be a refresh?
This is Donna. We're going to leave what's there, but you may notice that we have removed the surgeons' names from the individual sites. And that's because we've heard from multiple participants that when surgeons move around, even though their data may be included in the 4-year window that's reported, it's causing confusion for patients and families who are looking for surgeons at hospitals where they no longer practice. So the website, the hospital website link is there, and they can go there to see who the current cardiac surgeons are for that particular hospital. But other than that, the data will stay up.
Great. Also, a couple of questions regarding the report. So there's one question. So there's not going to be a STS harvest report. We will not have the PDF reports that you were used to getting from DCRI in the past. Everything, as Carol indicated, will be reported on our dashboard. There'll be dashboard reporting. So there will not be that big PDF report that you all were used to receiving, but your risk adjusted and your analyzed data, your risk adjusted data, and your star ratings, and all of that will be available within the IQVIA platform. And yes, the interpretation guide that comes along with that, with that came along with the PDF report in the past, that report interpretation guide and report overview, that will be posted within the library of the IQVIA platform. So you'll still have all your supporting documentation, all your reference material that came along with the report. So that will be provided in the library within IQVIA. I know we are a couple of minutes over.
Yep, I need to jump off. Sorry, Leanne.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone.
So if you all, and everyone, like I said, we are a little over time, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. If you have additional questions, please feel free to email me directly. I'm pretty sure you all are familiar with my email address. It is ljones@sts.org, or give me a call at 312-202-5822. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Again, please know that STS will be communicating all of this harvest-related information that we just provided to you all with the entire congenital heart community, surgeons, data managers. So all that information will be forthcoming along with the harvest close date. Again, we are getting close to that. And determining that. So again, all of that information will be coming and will be shared officially from STS to the surgeons, as well as to all of our data manager community. Thank you all, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you to my STS and IQVIA colleagues. I appreciate your support and your assistance. I hope you all have a great weekend. And again, follow up with me if you have additional questions. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Leanne. Good job.
Thanks, Carol. Thanks, IQVIA team.